Hear that? Can you hear me? All right, please take your seats. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We will start today with an invocation and a pledge, and then we'll do introductions. So please join me in the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather today. Excuse me. We ask for your continued blessing and prayer for our communities. We ask for your prayers for our servicemen that are always in harm's way. We ask for prayers for those families that have had loss in the last several weeks. Lord, bless this country, and thank you for the opportunity for us to gather freely and have an opportunity to delegate as members of this district. Thank you for all that you do. Bless this meeting in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here. I am State Representative Bobby Payne. I want to introduce my staff very quickly, then turn it over to Senator Perry. On my immediate left is Sarah Lynn Ard, is my legislative legislative aide, and she is recently married. So Geiger, excuse me. I know her husband's first name, but I can't remember his last name. Also with us is my district aide, Leota Wilkinson, and my district aide from Bradford and Union County, and that is Tammy Steele. So thank you all for being here. Senator?
Thank you. I'm Keith Perry, represent District 8, which is all of Putnam County, all of Alachua County, and most of Marion County. And I have Susie McGuire here, Keenan Vernon, and our new intern, second day here, as Abigail at the University of Florida.
Here we go, Gator. Good. Again, thank you for being here. We will get started. Today is the legislative delegation meeting for Putnam, and Senator Perry mentioned his area. Mine is Putnam, Bradford, Union, and portions of Clay County for District 19. First, we have some announcements, and that is the 2022 legislative session will convene on January the 11th of this year, 2022. We have interim committee weeks that will be beginning on September the 20th, just a few short weeks away. Today, for those of you who aren't on the agenda and would like to have a speaking moment, we request that you fill out an appearance card before you speak. Additionally, out of respect for those presenters, we're going to ask those members or those that want to speak to try to hold their comments to 3 minutes. And then lastly, let's make sure we silence all of our cell phones, and I'd appreciate that. First up on the agenda is the Honorable Larry Harvey, Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, and Chairman Terry Suggs from the County Administrator's Office. Gentlemen.
Everybody here? Good. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Senator Perry and Representative Payne. And Senator Perry, we welcome you to Putnam County. Bobby's our hometown boy, so we appreciate that. Didn't mean that derogatory whatsoever. But we do appreciate it, and we're very well represented in Tallahassee with the two of you. And your friends, we call on you all the time, and we call on your staff. Do want to bring to light, you have one of these pamphlets with your possession, some of the issues that are affecting Putnam County. The first one is the northern Putnam drainage. We're seeking $4 million to minimize flooding risk and direct impacts to residential and agricultural properties, and I'll let you read the rest of that. Number 2, South Putnam drainage, $560,000. This drainage outfall was constructed 50 years ago, quickly deteriorating. Multiple sections of the concrete U-channel outfall have deteriorated and causing multiple washouts. This outfall drains portion of County Road 309 and a small housing development to the east of County Road 309, St. John's Fishing Lodge Road. So this is very important. Number 3 is a fire and rescue training center, $4 million. Currently, fire rescue personnel need to travel to Marion and St. Johns County to attain the necessary training required to maintain and improve their life-saving skills. With acquisition and remodeling of property, it would help Putnam County Emergency Services could establish a state-of-the-art training center in our hometown. And in time, this facility could partnership with opportunities for local educational entities and firefighting agencies. And if you notice that new picture, those are our new fire trucks, and they're really very well done. Chief Grimes is with us today. Number 4 is West Putnam Fire Station. Current facility is overcrowded, poorly located. A better centered, equipped, and properly staffed facility is needed to address the growing fire call volume in that part of the county. And we do appreciate, while we're talking about West Putnam, all the millions and millions of dollars you spent bringing the 4-lane from Gainesville to Palatka. And that stretch of road will be done in the next couple years. We're so excited about what the growth there is going to happen in West Putnam. And finally, mental health, $1 million for refurbish existing structure to establish location for a reentry program in partnership with the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. So those are our requests that we have, and we thank you very much for your time and any questions you have for us.
Senator, questions?
Maybe more comments, and that is, so we just had some meetings talking about all the funding that's going to be coming down. A lot of that's going to be called resiliency. That definition is still out there to be determined. I think all of these, if my definition, a lot of your drainage issues would fall in that category. So we're going to have lots of money coming down from the feds. I don't know if that's a good thing overall for the country, but if it's coming down, we need to take advantage of it. So we're certainly, we're going to look to work with you guys on this stuff. I think it's important that Putnam County gets its fair share, and I can tell you that Bobby and I are going to work hard to get this. So I'm you never are too optimistic being in Tallahassee, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to get some of these projects, and who knows, we may not fight them for years, we may get them fully funded within the first year. So we're going to work with you, and you have to be the squeaky wheel. Gets a lot of things going on at one time. So,
and let me introduce our commissioners. We have Commissioner Paul Adamsack right behind me, and Commissioner Vice Chairman Bill Pickens, and Commissioner Terry Turner, former chairman of the board. Commissioner Rawls could not join us today, but I'm going to let Mr. Suggs introduce his staff real quick.
Larry, I've got a few follow-up questions when the chair gets done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Perry, Representative Payne. To my right here, we have Public Safety Director J.R. Grimes, who has 2 of the requests on our list today. We have Deputy County Administrator Ms. Julianne Young, and our Legislative Affairs and Grants Coordinator, Mr. Sam Sullivan, with us here today. So any questions you have, I believe we'll be able to help you answer anything that we can today. So we're just here for whatever we can do for you today.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Couple comments, couple questions. I know the East Putnam Drainage Project has done very well over several years. Very needed, very necessary project, as we saw after the hurricanes in 2017. We expect the South District to be very similar. The North Putnam drainage area that includes areas that experienced flooding in the last several years, as Senator said, but will be probably part of the resiliency projects. Sure. It's a big ask, but often, as you know, we take some small bites depending on what revenue streams and what federal dollars roll down. Fire rescue training facility, is there opportunities for joint use of that facility? Chief? And the reason I mentioned that, I know later in the program, Dr. Cerncy will be up speaking about some areas that he's looking at, but I would think there would be some compatibility in using that facility.
Absolutely, and one of the things, as a matter of fact, we just talked about it at lunch today with Colonel Wells, that, they often need classroom space and things, so I think we can joint partner that with our Sheriff's Office as well. I think it was mentioned in the flyer, if it's not, with Miss Renee Huff, I saw her walk in a little bit ago. We started a program in our high schools teaching high school students firefighting. They've started their medical training this year. That program has grown from 7 students last year to 28 in the fire, and it has, I think, 8 or 9 in the first section of the medical training. So we're able to capture our local talent and trying to put them to work. This gives them an opportunity to stay close to home, to do their post-secondary education, to get them to where they need to be so we can employ them here at home. So, okay. But I think there's an awful lot of opportunity out there for us to partner with multiple agencies in this.
And one last question on the West Putnam Fire Station. I see that request is at $2 million. I know we built the East Putnam Fire Station for quite a bit less, but then we had to go back and get some additional dollars for water supply.
Yes, sir, and I think we're going to run into the same issue, and especially with the price of building materials have
Right.
gone the way
So
they're going.
That was my question. Cost of escalation of building materials and projected forward of growth of interest. That's part of what you're seeing there for that
Yes, sir.
escalation. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Do you, quick question, is the land, you already have acquired the land for this facility? Is that still something?
We really haven't hammered down the exact location. The county does own several parcels of property in the west of the county that I think could absolutely be used. But we just haven't nailed down a specific location because we're trying to figure out exactly where the growth is coming in there. So we're thinking in that greater Interlochen area. Chairman Harvey looked at some property they're around the school district office or the Interlochen High School or junior, senior high school now. So kind of up in that area. This is station we're in right now is just overcrowded. We got a station for about 3 and there's got 5 in it. So we just need to get some additional space for those folks.
Okay, thank you for that.
And thank you. And I want to say this before I leave the podium. As you well know, I serve on the board of Florida Association of Counties and Small County Coalition. My job this year is not rural issues. It's actually, I am the chairman of the broadband initiative by the president of our organization. I dressed as Flash. We have the pictures, we have the posters, flash drive at the convention to kind of spark the momentum.
I saw that.
But yes, you have questions about Flash?
No, were those artificial muscles you had inserted in that uniform?
Well, I'm not going to confirm or deny that, okay, at this point. I have been asked to wear that at Rural Days
Okay,
by Department of Economic Opportunity.
thought you looked kind of pumped.
Flash might make an appearance there, but it's very important, as you well know. It would be really great, and we really appreciate what the legislators have done with the Office of Broadband. Finally, we're starting to see traction come about this issue, and COVID brought that out. So you're going to see a lot more of me, probably without the costume, about broadband and things like that, how we can all work together. And one last thing before we leave, okay? Senator Perry, would you come down, please? And since myself and Vice Chair Pickens serve on the board of the Small County Coalition, the Small County Coalition recognizes Senator Keith Perry, Senate District 8, for legislative appreciation, for leadership and support on issues critical to local government and Florida's small and rural communities. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, baby. No, we'll do it right now.
All right, we'll do it in that picture now.
Okay.
We'll interrupt you in the chair, with the permission of the chair.
You're right ahead.
Out of the way, Bobby. Thanks.
All right, not to be outdone, Representative Payne, again, come down. And I knew that was going to come. The Small County Coalition recognizes Representative Bobby Payne, House District 19, for legislative appreciation, for leadership and support on issues critical to local governments and Florida's small and rural communities. Thank you for all your hard work, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Now we'll get our picture. You're down here.
We're Leo when you need her to tell Bobby what to do.
And we're done. Thank you very much. Have a great day and appreciate you being in Putnam County.
Great, thanks, Chairman. And thanks for the award. It's nice to see Senator Perry and myself being recognized when we've worked together so well and certainly supporting the needs of the community. Next, President Joe Pickens, St. John's River State College. President Pickens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Bobby. And before I get started on the Florida School of the Arts, 2 things. Number 1, Want to thank Leota and remind you that she's due for a raise. She's overdue for a raise. And that's all I need to say about that. And second, anything J.R. Grimes asks for, I would encourage you to consider seriously. Now, Bobby, you'll appreciate this, I know. J.R. Grimes' father played center for Crescent City Junior Senior High School in 1974-75.
You were the quarterback.
A position I felt was incredibly valuable to my health and safety. And so I've held the Grimes family in high regard ever since I was 15 years old. And so anything you can do for Mr. Grimes, I would appreciate it. And I know you especially understand that. I prided myself in 13 years as the president of St. John's to not have to bother my legislative delegation for much. Bobby, you know how I feel about the 8 years immediately after me. There wasn't much reason to. And so we survived on our own. And Senator Perry, you weren't there yet to help us. But with the leaving of Senate President Galvano, my time with personal connections from my previous career is now officially over. In the last 3 years that you have, Bobby, I understand more than most that the responsibilities you have and are going to have are statewide. It makes it harder to be parochial to Putnam County and the other counties you represent, and I understand that responsibility and know that you will handle that well. Senator, as a senator, you always have to think about that. Only 40 people governing the state of Florida on that side of the aisle. The Florida School of the Arts is the heartbeat of St. John's River State College Palatka campus, and it needs some help. We have a project request that totals $18 million. It's been on the PICO list for quite some time. St. Augustine and Orange Park have done very well, thank you, over the last number of years. We've put $2.5 million almost in the Flow Arts project of our own, and I was able to secure $4 million in a state appropriation 3 years ago that was vetoed by a previous governor. The current governor has been to St. John's River. He's spoke at a graduation, and he's thrown out a first pitch at a baseball game. He knows us, he understands us, and he cares about us. I'm not worried about a veto. I'm worried about PICO funding. We have $4 million more that we are willing to invest in this project, and we're asking for 12 over the next 2 or 3 years from the legislature. If you can do one thing for the health and safety and for the betterment and future of the Palatka campus of St. John's River State College, it would be to see that that project comes to fruition during your tenure together. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, President Pickens. Do you have questions, Senator Perry? Good?
No, good program we're going to work on.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Next is our Putnam County Property Appraiser, Honorable Tim Parker. Mr. Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you today. As I mentioned to Leota earlier, I wanted to be here to talk about House Bill 13. I think it's been pre-filed. This is an exemption that would increase the widowers, blind, and disability exemption from the current $500 level to $5,000 level. It's been proposed by Gottlieb and Morales. Now, they're both Democrats, so I don't know how far that will actually go, but at least you're apprised of it. We have submitted this, or had found sponsors through the Property Appraisers Association of Florida for several years, probably 17, 18, and 19. The last time in 19, it was sponsored by Tyler Ciros and Senator Tom Wright. It didn't pass, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. The statewide fiscal impact at that time was about $39.6 million. And I've handed you a impact that would be locally here as well. We have not had very many increases in our counts as far as people that were getting that exemption. It seems like, well, in 2020 it was 3,069, in 2021 it's 3,068. So people are, as they get it, then they perhaps pass away, and then the next person, will come along and get it. So, but Putnam County has not really seen that big of a population growth either. So that could be one of the other reasons that it would be somewhat stagnant. So we have not put this in front of our legislative committee yet to say whether the association would back it, but we have backed it in prior years. Bob Enriquez, I don't know if you know him, from Hillsborough area, is our legislative chair. So if you have any questions in the future, you can feel free to contact myself or Bob. All right.
Did you say, Tim, did you say the number you saw from the Revenue Estimating Conference was 39.6 million? Is that
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So we did not put this forward last year. We skipped last year.
Okay.
But it has been like the 2 or 3 years previous, and it will be this year.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next on the list is Putnam Clerk of Courts, Honorable Matt Reynolds. Matt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Representative. And before I get started, it's a pleasure to be able to stand in front of you today as the Putnam County Clerk of Court. Thank you both for holding this delegation and allowing us to come and speak with you here in beautiful Putnam County. Before I get into talking about clerks and our issues statewide, I want to take just a brief moment to thank you both for your extraordinary work last year in the legislature in getting some of the clerk's priorities passed. As you know, Senator Perry, the Clerks Association just recently awarded you with an award down in Marion County that I was fortunate enough to attend, and I thought it was a very good ceremony. Our priorities last year were packaged together in Senate Bill 838, and that really helped to kind of build the groundwork for allowing the clerks to be more sustainable in our funding sources. So we appreciate that very deeply. Also very thankful for your work together on the pandemic recovery process. The clerks statewide were able to be allocated $6.25 million that are going to help all clerks statewide to try to get caught up on our caseload due to the pandemic. So that's very important. First of all, I'm really looking forward to working with both of you this year in the legislature. The Clerks Association is going to bring forward some different ideas on our revenue structure and how our services are going to be funded. We're looking to build upon kind of that Senate Bill 838 that we adopted last year. As both of you know, the clerks statewide are primarily funded through civil traffic citations, and with that revenue source becoming increasingly more unstable, the clerks want to work very closely with the legislature in coming up with maybe some out-of-the-box ideas on how we may look to fund those services that we have to provide that there are no filing fees for, such as criminal cases, domestic violence injunctions, those sort of things. And so I don't have any details yet on what our statewide clerk association is going to be bringing forward, but I will say that once I get some more information, I'll be reaching out to both of your offices and your staff to set up some time so I can spend a little bit more time with you and talking about that. So again, thank you both so very much for allowing us to come and stand in front of you today at this delegation, and thank you so much for your efforts last year in the legislative session.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Any questions? All right. Thank y'all.
Next on the list is the Putnam County Supervisor elections, the Honorable Charles Overturf. Charles, thanks for being here. You're recognized.
Thank you. Just want to say a big thank you to both of you, not just for last year, but for the last couple of years, because of the leadership you all have put in place, allowed us to have, I believe, the best election in the history of our county and also the best in the state of Florida. And it's because of some of the things that you all have done in the last few years. You listened to us, you promoted the audit equipment that I asked for, the recount and all, and you all have passed that and the governor signed it. So I want to say a thank you for that. Putnam County set a record this year. We had the most voters in the history of this county, over 36,000. And I don't mean we just beat it by a few. We were over 3,000 more ballots cast this year than we've ever seen it ever. We also had over 9,000 vote-by-mail ballots, which also set a record. And even in COVID conditions, we had over 10,000 people that voted on Election Day, which wasn't a record, but it was great. But we had over 16,000 people that voted early voting, and that was a record, even with the COVID situation the way it was. So I want to say thank you for all that you all have done in the past to help with that and to be promoting of that. I do ask you your help, and because of the accolades that we got, a lot of us were very puzzled or surprised when SB 90 passed. I'm sure if your phone is rung like mine has, that there's people that have questioned, why did we do certain things like that? Why did we allow that? I'm only going to deal with two areas of that. The first one is the fact that you switched from every 2 general election cycles for vote-by-mail requests having to be turned in to now it has to be done every year, every election cycle. You all had just passed that a few years ago, and it had really worked out. We had just begun to get the public realizing that, okay, after the second general election, we're going to have to re-up, so it's not permanent. But us going backward, I think is going to be a real negative. Not that we can't handle it, because we'll do whatever we're told to do. But the negative is with the public's perception. I have already been hit by many people that said, oh yeah, that's the legislature's way of trying to stop us from voting. And I know that that's not the purpose that you all passed. I know that that is not, what the motive was.
What do you see as one of the biggest hurdles or difficulties of that section of the bill?
Well, one of the things is
There's
the
a
new
perception of,
Yeah, the new requirement says now for a vote-by-mail request, you have to put either your driver's license, your date of birth, or the Florida identification. And why is that a negative? Is because we've got a pile of older voters that we don't have any of that. So we're going to have to reach out to every older voter. And remember, they're the ones that vote the highest percentage as far as turnout. So they're already complaining because now we're going to have to contact every one of them if they want to continue to vote by mail so that we abide by the law. And so that's the biggest thing. And then we're going to have to do it every couple of years till we get everybody's either Social Security last 4 or the identification and all.
and on that specific thing, I'd certainly like to talk to you about any kind of glitch bills that we have to fix.
Right.
I can tell you both my daughters, and one just finally moved out, but after 5 years in the same rental house near campus in the University of Florida, she gets mail from people who've lived there haven't lived there for years and years and years. That was a constant thing of all these people getting mail. So if you find, different parts of the state have different kind of, transient kind of people that live in different areas. But I think, certainly we want to look at those things and say that's impractical, or it's maybe not practical, but it still makes it very difficult. Glad to work with you on that specific, those issues.
And again, in complimenting you all, one of the things I had come a few years ago and asked about was the statewide initiative of joining the ERIC program, which joins us with 30 other states. And we are now actively receiving that, and our rolls dropped by about 400, or they put 400 in the queue that we have to go through because they have a question. And several of them were people that were living in other states now that we were never notified. Some are deceased that nobody ever notified us, and so we didn't take them off. So that is really working. If we could just get the other 20 states to, get involved in it, I think it would really improve that part. But thank you all for finding the money in the legislature to allow the state of Florida to do that. And it is paying dividends, I can tell you. So one other aspect, and this is probably the more negative of it, is the drop boxes. And the way that you all, the statute is written now, it has to be manned, not just a camera. And the negative is, as I said, we had over 9,000 people that voted by mail. Out of that, 5,000 voted by mail. The other 4,000 in this county put them in one of our drop boxes. And our most popular drop box is the one right out in front of my office that is under camera surveillance 24 hours a day. And the way the statute is written, I can't use that anymore. And so we're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of people say, Charles, you just got this started about 3 or 4 years ago, and now we've gotten used to it and we loved it. They don't even have to get out of their car. It's like a mailbox. They just drive up and stick it in, and we go out 3, 4, 5 times a day and pick them up. But the way the statute was passed, I can't use that anymore unless I go and hire and I'm not going to put an election worker out there in the middle of the night, but if I hired one of Colonel Wells's deputies off duty, you know, we're looking at $25,000 or $30,000 extra in a year to do it for a 30-day period, and it's just not feasible, you know, for my budget. It's looking at just having somebody watch the vote by mail boxes in our early voting sites is going to be a $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 hit, just because we've got to have, according to the statute, we've got to have somebody that is actually standing there watching. And they said that one of the reasons was because they wanted to limit it to two ballots per person except for family. But there's no enforcement clause in that bill. So I've been told by the state, if Representative Payne walks in with 10 and he said, Charles, 5 of them are family, I have no right to ask you, please tell me how they're family. And then the other 5 I have to accept, because they said do not accept a ballot because there is no enforcement. So I'm just saying that I need your help to try to see if hopefully the legislature will relook at that
Yeah,
bill
yeah.
in January before we get to August
We
next year.
understand. Yeah, we understand. And so I will tell you this. There's always room for improvement. I think that's what Senator Perry was just saying. There's some glitches in there that we need to tighten up perhaps.
Right.
Drop boxes was a huge issue for us last year. Not every county is as fortunate as Putnam County is to have a supervisor with your level of integrity. We know that election returns, we're still getting emails, hundreds a week on election issues. Some of them aren't very well worded, and some of them are there's quite a few expletives in there. So we know that we can continue to do a better job. We want the state of Florida to lead the nation as far as election responsibility. Every vote counted, every vote being accurate. And so there'll be some painstaking efforts as we continue down that process. And every 2 years, we have a new speaker or a new president, and they bring with them a set of agenda that
Right.
they want to make sure that they are doing the best they can, as well as representation from the governor. So we appreciate your comments. We realize that I thought about you quite a bit during those times in the session when I said this is going to put some additional constraints on your office. But we know there's certainly districts throughout the state that don't take the job as serious as you do. So we appreciate that, and thank you for your comments.
So I appreciate that. Let me mention the last thing real quick. Just to give you an example of, we did find 2 voter fraud cases in our county. One of them was a gentleman that voted here and voted in Ohio, and that one has been turned over to the state attorney's office. And the second one was a lady here in this community, in this town, who had 2 different identifications and voted 2 vote-by-mail ballots on the exact same day, one under each name, and she has also been turned in. So when we find something, we sure do our best to make sure that we give it to the proper authorities, and then they'll handle it the best we can. So anything we can do in this office or myself for you all to make things better, that's what we're here for, is all of us.
Thank you for that. We probably both got emails from both of those constituents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Honorable Rick Cernsey, Superintendent of Putnam County School District. Dr. Cernsey, you're recognized.
Representative Payne, Senator
Bringing
Perry.
Renee and Holly with you, so great.
Yeah, I brought my force here. But Holly Pickens, Chairman of the Putnam County School District, or School Board, excuse me. Renee Huff is the Director of Career and Technical Education for the district. So they're here to support me and answer any questions that you might have. But I want to thank both of you gentlemen for your support of our school district over the last several years. Specifically, we've asked for some appropriations over the last 3 or 4 years for work programs such as advanced manufacturing, and we partnered with Georgia Pacific during that time, and we've actually had our first graduates from that program this past year. And these are highly skilled positions, and these graduates can go on and earn high-paying jobs, hopefully here locally. We've also asked, and you've been gracious enough to provide funding for a public service academy. I know Chief Grimes mentioned that, and we're working closely with the county in providing people for firefighters, emergency technicians, 911 operators, and so on. So that's been a good partnership between us and the county. Some things that are going on now, I just want to bring to your attention. We are currently going through a revitalization plan with, you probably heard that we've closed 5 schools this past year So we've gone from 18 to 13 schools with the purpose of trying to align our student population, which has declined over the last decade, with our student stations. And again, we've changed our configuration to a kindergarten 6 and then a junior senior high, which is 7-12 configuration. And that's going to be really a very positive for us moving forward. We are going to be asking for special facilities funding. For the next session, we'll be putting in an application in February. But again, our goal is we're going to start building new schools here in Putnam County over the next decade. And we would certainly appreciate support for that. As you know, we've, over the last 5 years, we've had a tremendous growth in graduation rates. Actually, our district has grown more than any other district in the state of Florida during that period of time. We've gone from 54.9% to 90.1% in 2020. And this year, when the rates come out, I expect it to be even higher. But I am very proud of that, and I think I credit everybody in the school district for all their hard work to make that happen. But we can't rest on those laurels. And you know, when those kids walk across the stage, we have to have some opportunities for those kids, those graduates. So our goal now is really to focus on post-secondary. What can we do to help prepare our graduates for a post-secondary life where they can be successful in a college and career and just in life in itself. And we want them to move back to Putnam County and contribute and pay taxes right here. So that's our main goal, is to improve that workforce. And your last two appropriations have helped us do that. But one thing that we are looking for this session, and I believe I've given you a packet of information, we are going to be requesting $500,000 for a building construction technologies academy. And we're asking to begin those two academies or in two high schools, at Interlochen Junior Senior High School and at Palatka High School. And you look in the handout, there's a lot of data for a need for that type of workforce in this district. As you know, we're having increased housing. Actually, Leota can attest to that, I believe, but a lot of housing in this district, in this county, and we want to be able to provide that workforce for our local contractors. We have a lot of road construction going on, and when we start building new schools, there will be a need for people to work in that workforce as well. So we're trying to provide skilled workforce in the building trades, which would include carpentry, electrical, masonry, HVAC, and plumbing. And we have a number of letters of support in the packet, and you can see some of the skills that are listed there that these graduates would have. But again, these graduates with that certification can go to work right out of high school, earn a high-paying job, and fulfill a big need that we have for that type of employment here in Putnam County. So I would ask for that, and if you have any questions, be glad to answer those. And Ms. Huff can answer the real hard questions.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Sterncy. Certainly, that's a program or a process that Senator Perry and I both have supported for the last at least 5 years, for him longer than that, since he's been in the legislature much longer than I have. We know that not all students are college bound. And a lot of hometown kids we want to put to work out of high school or with a certificate 2 years afterwards that will become entrepreneurs and business owners at some point in time, keep them in our community, build homes and houses here to help our growth. With regard to capital dollars for a new facility, is there any commonality between the schools that you're closing and the opportunity to establish at least some level of technical school or technical application in those schools because of their space? Or is that something that you've looked at?
Well, we're trying to use some of our existing space now in some of our current high schools, and we're going to have to reconfigure some of the facilities especially to accommodate this new academy. Mm-hmm. Currently, the closed facilities that we have, our goal is to try to liquidate those and try to regain some of the capital funding that we could use towards new facilities. So, we're not wiping that off. We're not, putting that aside. We would consider anything, and we've actually been in conversation with the county. I think JR mentioned that about a possibility of some type of agreement. But again, it would take some, some funding to do that. So
liquidation would help you with the deferred maintenance on those facilities for sure. Okay. All right, Senator Perry?
Yeah. And not all senators are college-bound either.
Yeah, I know, you know a pretty good roofer in here,
Yeah.
don't you?
So, in some of your vocational and the construction side of that, how much of that, or do you have a percentage or part of that is in CNC and computers and programming and stuff, since a lot of these, and we're seeing that more with robotics and stuff, is a portion of that designed to do maybe general CNC, computer numeric controlled machines or programming?
Renee, can you address that?
Yes, sir. There is some within the building construction technologies that is part of like AutoCAD and the different things that the students will have to know for drafting purposes and for designing. There is part of that is in the curriculum.
Okay, and maybe we can collaborate. So even at Santa Fe College or building construction, they have a kind of a laboratory building. They have a truss machine now that's all computer controlled. And so they're, it's the guy's program. I mean, there's certain mechanical stuff too involved in that, but it's programming a gigantic machine to build it. So we see a lot of these.
Advanced manufacturing program, and a lot of the equipment that we were able to purchase with our appropriations before, it is a lot that is the computer and that it's programmable. So, and in the building constructions, from what I have been researching, there are the different tools and equipment that will also do that.
Good. All right, look forward to working with you on that.
Good, great question, yeah, and in industry is the same way. Industry is putting apprentices through CAD applications as well as predictive and preventative maintenance programs that are computer-based. So, good, thank you.
And by the way, we have just started at QI Roberts Senior High School, our first artificial intelligence academy. So again, that's a whole nother thing, but we're addressing those needs as well. So that's an exciting new venture we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we'll move to cities. The Honorable Mayor Terrell Hill from Palatka. Mayor? Yeah, we do. I'm sorry. All right. Sorry about that. Colonel Wells, are you ready? Okay, sorry, Mayor. That'll give you a chance to move up front.
Good afternoon to both of you, and I'll be very brief. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all your support. Unfortunately, the sheriff is out of town with the Florida Sheriff's Association as they work on their legislative agenda for the year. So on his behalf, just want to thank you for being here. We have nothing specific from the sheriff's office. We feel that we have open lines of communication with both of your offices, and we talk freely. We would only encourage you to consider what you're going to hear, I believe, here very shortly with the mental health concerns we have in Putnam County, specifically from Stuart Marchman Behavioral, which is a great community partner of ours. As a matter of fact, I think we're both scheduled to speak in a overdose awareness event this afternoon. But what we know as a fact is that the majority of the inmates that are in the Putnam County Jail, specifically those inmates that come and go, are there for one of two reasons. They either have an addiction issue or a mental health issue. And while we've seen the mental health treatment and opportunities in Putnam County grow significantly over the past few years, we still have a long way to go. So we just want to speak in support of the initiative that you're going to hear about from Stuart Marchman Behavioral Health Care and any other mental health issues. That's the biggest thing I think that you both can do in support of law and order and public safety in Putnam County. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you just a quick question on that? Yeah, so we understand, I've been dealing with criminal justice issues for 25 plus years, and understand that a lot of drug addiction, drug abuse leads to that. Has the Sheriff's Association of Florida looked at other states that have, whether it's recreational marijuana or other drugs, and seen any kind of correlation between increase in mental health issues? If you've done that, great. If you haven't, I would encourage you to do that, because as the state of Florida debates legalizing certain drugs, it'd be nice for the general public to know.
Right.
I think we are in a position where we're kind of debating that now and looking at it and make a decision, but I think the general public is probably more of a marketing campaign on whether or not that should be legalized or not, whether it's marijuana or any other issue. So if you had data, we have other states that have had this legalized for a while, that would increase mental health issues. I think it'd be good for us to know and then disseminate that information out.
Absolutely, and I will make sure that we get you that information. Last year the Sheriff's Association did a whole lot of work to spread truthful information with the truth in sentencing issues that came up, where false information was spread that the county jails and prisons throughout Florida were full of nonviolent drug offenders. And I think that we successfully proved that that was woefully false. We do have drug offenders that go to jail, but most of the time, especially when you look at the prison system, that is not nonviolent drug offenders. It takes multiple trafficking level drug offenses or violent crime drug connected to end up in state prison. So we believe that the sheriff's office's focus is changed a lot in the last few months. Well, specifically the last 7 months, as we've brought in a new director of corrections and completely changed the direction of corrections in Putnam County. A lot of that through our partnerships. But if we believe that that's our next opportunity to reduce crime, are these programs in the jail. Our law enforcement team has done a great job. Crime is at decades low in Putnam County and continues to fall. But I think our next opportunity is in the jail and through the corrections. So by whatever means we give someone opportunity to succeed when they leave the jail, then we hope that that will reduce that recidivism, whether it be through the many programs we've put into place, everything from art programs for the inmates to robust mental health. We're fixing to open our first recovery pod, which will be a pod inside our jail where only folks that are serious about their recovery will be housed, and they will be saturated with recovery techniques throughout the day. And then our new Ready to Work program, where we're teaching the skills, providing resumes, and have partnered in the community with business partners who are now telling us what they need in employees. We are making sure the inmates get that while they're there, and then they're interviewing the inmates before they're even released from the jail and hiring them the minute they walk out. We just had 15 inmates interviewed by Camarco Products the other day here in Putnam County. So a lot of that is going on to treat the substance abuse, but when you have the underlying mental health that goes with that, it certainly adds a lot of significance to it. So again, we just stand in support of any mental health issues that have brought before you for Putnam County.
Thank you, Colonel. I know that recently there was a SMA had a workshop day, and
Yes, sir.
it was very productive. And I'll tell you that, as the senator said, there are groups from all over the country that want to turn Florida to a recreational drug state. Happened to be at a leadership conference last week with the Florida legislature, and right next to us was a group that was wanted to discuss medical marijuana and what we're going to do to get that changed in the state to make us a free access state for recreational marijuana. So it's really important that we know the data, know the statistics.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate
The data is available, and then we will get. I'll get you some specifics on that through the association. But in conversations and some brief view of data, specifically with the state of Colorado, they've seen the opposite in a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're not seeing the illicit drug trade diminish at all. They're, a matter of fact, seeing it grow because there's still opportunities for folks to get the non-legally sold marijuana for cheaper, which is still now creating violent situations and large indoor grows. So I could tell you that, speaking for the sheriff, and I feel comfortable doing here, we are not in support of any additional legalization of drugs, and we emphatically deny the false information that is being spread around that our prisons are full of nonviolent drug offenders, because that's just not the case.
Okay.
But I appreciate your need for the specific information. We'll take care of that for you.
Thank you, Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, sorry I skipped Colonel Wells, but you're up. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
It's always a pleasure to stand before you in representation of the city of Palatka. For the record, I'm Terrell Hill, Mayor of the city of Palatka and immediate past president of Florida League of Mayors. I stand here on behalf of Commissioners Justin Campbell, Rufus Borum, Tammy McCaskill, and Will Jones. As both of you gentlemen know, the city of Palatka has worked tirelessly over the past few years in infrastructure improvements. We've replaced about 15 lineal miles of potable water lines throughout that process, and that in great part is due to the support from both of you who sit here today, as well as from organizations such as the Water Management District. And so when you look at what we've done, I think from a tax increment standpoint, using tax increment financing, using state revolving loan funds as a method to increase infrastructure that dated back to 1886, it will continue with that push as we move into this session. More particularly looking at opportunities to engage septic to sewer enhancements throughout the county and several of the enclaves. You're both familiar with a number of enclaves that reach from the riverfront to Silver Lake Drive, all the way out to State County Road 309. And so there are a lot of enclaves that give us an opportunity to increase capacity for many of our business owners as well as the residential pieces. And so we're looking for opportunities to really gain additional funding as we begin to leverage what funds we have as a small city, with slightly over the threshold of 10,000 citizens at 10.4 by census count this year. And also to continue with our potable water expansions. Additionally, we've got some additional expansions needed at the water treatment plant in the tune of about $1.5 million. Those are going to be GAC and well upgrades at the water plant. And that number is about $1.5 million. And then we want to focus on affordable housing. As we look at what's going on around this community, we're finally starting to see dirt move continuously. Affordable housing is going to be a critical piece as we begin to house the workforce, as we begin to really have true conversations about where people will live as they move into this community. We want to look at really strategic ways in which we can start to control our growth and at the same point make sure that we can provide for the middle tier workers who will be coming into a lot of our factories and some of our new positions as well. Aside from that, we recently acquired through the school district, through Superintendent Rick Cernsey and the school board as a whole, the Northside Neighborhood Facility Center, which will be known as the Central Academy Neighborhood Center. That center will serve as a place of hope and gathering for the community as a whole. It will allow us to be able to court organizations such as the unemployment offices as well as Social Security and some of those places to have a community location in Palatka so that citizens no longer have to move to areas like St. Augustine in order to gain the needed services there. It will also allow us to have partnerships with other service organizations, and we'll be asking for some additional funding so that we can provide programming which will be sustainable in the community to deal with issues that pertain to our youth as well as to the citizens as a whole. And then finally, we're looking at significant upgrades to the airport again. We've been in constant conversation about an aeronautics program as well as an airport mechanics program. We're finding that there are significant deficits as it relates to those particular trades within the airport. It creates an opportunity for us to have a destination as a whole, and it also creates the perfect opportunity for us to meet a significant need that's not being met anywhere else in the region. And so with that, gentlemen, that concludes our presentation. And again, thank you for all your support.
Good, thank you. I was glad to hear you mention the septic sewer conversions. That's certainly something that's dear to both of us. I know through the statewide revolving fund and probably through resiliency funding, we see some great opportunities there.
Right.
So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Honorable Michelle Myers, Mayor, and Charles Rudd, City Manager of Crescent City. Mayor. Charles, good to see you. Hadn't seen you in several years. Good to see you.
This is our new addition.
Yeah, great. You're recognized.
Senator Perry, Representative Payne, thank you on behalf of the citizens of Crescent City and our commission. And with us today, we have Commissioner Lisa DeVito, Commissioner Cynthia Burton, and of course, our new addition, Charles Rudd, which we're very excited about. We thank you for allowing us to be here today to speak, share our concerns, and listen. Probably one of the biggest things that it's a common theme is infrastructure. And our infrastructure has aged out, it's crippled. And you're probably going to hear this throughout from all the municipalities. We have got a lot of our water mains right now that are in desperate need of being replaced. We have also our pump station rehabilitation that is in, right now. I think we met on that just a few days ago. Septic tank conversion is also another big issue with us. Of course, as you know, the city sits between two very significant water bodies to Putnam County. And it's our responsibility to make sure that whatever we do, we don't in any way endanger those water bodies. And so making sure that our infrastructure is up to speed and operating correctly is probably one of our biggest concerns at this point in time. Unfortunately, the commission has not had an opportunity to meet with Charles, seeing as he's only been here for 3 weeks, to go over some significant needs and some of our priorities that we see that we need to talk to you about. We would like to keep this conversation open if possible. As we continue to work with Charles, he's becomes more, familiar with our community. But we do appreciate this opportunity, and if you have any questions.
Sure, we'll be talking to you as we move forward with ways we can support, whether through appropriations or whether through grant funding. It's difficult for fiscally constrained counties to get grant funding, we know that, so especially when you have to provide a match. But certainly willing to have those conversations and continue to support the good work that we know that you're doing and Charles will be doing, as well as our commissioner, so thank you.
And we do. And Charles has already worked with and spoken to some of our grant experts, and so we will also be aggressively pursuing everything that we possibly can.
Okay.
So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and just a general statement, I said this earlier
Yes,
to
sir.
the mayor as well, you guys, it helps when you're the squeaky wheel for us. We get up there, it's crazy hectic the last few weeks when a lot of the funding issues are being negotiated, going back and forth, so especially with the potential of all this money from resiliency coming in, you, the mayor of Palatka, the mayor of all the small towns and stuff, or the city commissioners, y'all reach out. We may not be able to get back with you, but right away on some of these things, but we're not ignoring you. But if you're not reaching out to us, we don't want to get you lost in the shuffle. And like I say, there potentially is a lot of money coming down from the feds on this thing that we need to take advantage of. So we're gonna do everything we can, but you're not bothering us to keep on.
Well, that's
reaching
why I
out.
asked if we could continue the conversation, and I'm excited as we go forward, because right now, all of our municipalities, we have some really good leaders and some great mayors that are working together, and we're all trying to work together. So I think we as a body can definitely be that squeaky wheel.
Well, great point by Senator Perry, and that is towards the end of the session, when there's a little bit of sprinkling of dollars available still left that we haven't gotten as a major project, it's always good to remind us that you have a need.
Yeah.
And through our staffs, make sure that we have you on the list, that we
Thank
get a chance to rehearse that with the Appropriations Committee and Appropriations Chair, so that
We'll
we can
stay in
find
very
some-
close contact.
Good.
And again, we appreciate this opportunity.
Thank
Do
you.
you need to add anything, Charles? You're good? Okay, okay. We're going
Next
to
year.
put him to work.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Charles. Thank you. Next on our list is the Honorable Jamie Watts, the Mayor of Palatka. Jamie, you're recognized. Welaka. All right. So, yeah, I do need some new glasses, so I
Just become the
apologize,
ma-
Mayor, I apologize. So,
As long as I can get Mayor Hill's salary, I'm good with that. So, Senator Perry, Representative Payne, it's a pleasure to be here today to speak to y'all.
thank you.
I'm the new mayor of Palatka that was elected in March of this year, and I hit the ground running. And as Mayor Myers was talking about a minute ago, we have some great mayors in South Putnam, in Palatka, and all over Putnam County, and we're coming together to partnership and realize that sometimes working together we can get more accomplished than being separate on this. To carry on, I might as well carry on with what Mayor Myers was talking about a moment ago. The biggest challenge that we face now in the town of Palatka is with our infrastructure. And we got some exciting things that are happening down there. We got a resort that we're looking at on the north end of Palatka that we're talking to the developers about right now that could see several hundred jobs if it comes to fruition. We have a couple of RV parks down there that I'm looking to install. I've got more construction happening in the town of Palatka now than I've had in the last 20 years. We've got a subdivision that's fixing to be completely built out. And the word's out about Palatka. It's a hidden gem, but the word is out now. Walaka's a unique town in the sense that we are bordered on the St. Johns River on the west side. The entire west side of the town is bordered. We understand the importance of the river and what it means to us and our economy and to our residents. We're trying to protect the river. We've got many houses that are on septic tank that need to come off septic tank and go into sewer. And we're having some discussions with those residents and looking at some grants that we can do. The biggest challenge we face with that is our sewer plant, which currently is at about 80% capacity right now, is a dual plant. It's concrete and it's metal. We have a metal package plant. It's got about 50 years of age on it, and it's going to have to be replaced for the economic development that's occurring in the town, along with the protection of the St. Johns River. We do sit in the lower St. Johns River water basin, and according to the River Management, we're not meeting standards as far as phosphorus, and chlorophyll A. So we want to work to protect that and to bring those standards up. So right now, the town has got several grants that we're working on, we're working through, and we're also looking at an appropriations request as well. So any support that you could provide to the town would be greatly appreciated. You know, I spoke to Chairman Harvey from the county commissioners and the mayors of Pomona Park and Crescent City, and the growth that we're going to see in Palatka is going to spill over in South Putnam, into the county, into the other cities, as the workforce is going to need places to live, and we're going to see more residents come in. So it's a benefit not only to the little town of Palatka with about 717 residents, but it's also a benefit to all of South Putnam. So any support that you could give us would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions?
Thank you,
No,
sir.
I appreciate what you said. We know that we've said often that we see potential for growth in Putnam County, but Palatka has, in fact, I was at an event in Orlando last week, and they were talking about Palatka. So the growth of that area with the resort, if you're not aware, the owner of Bass Pro Shop's got some big things going on down there. And so we know with the number of people moving to Florida every day, that the resiliency fund and other funds need to be supplemented to a greater extent so we can cover those needs, because we can't put out compliance rules and not help funding in small communities. So
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
We appreciate that. Thank
So
you.
let me just say, make sure that when we talk about appropriations to everyone here, that we're coordinating through staffs to make sure we have those
Absolutely.
appropriations in at the proper time. That's significant. That's very important. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
One
Yes,
quick
sir.
question. So the road to the, I guess it's the south coming into Palatka that floods.
County Road 308B.
That's a county road. Is that in one of
Yes,
the
sir.
plans now to be?
Part of that South Drainage District.
Part of that.
We're looking at, I've been talking to the Public Works Director about that. There's some stuff that we're looking at. We're gonna do some, it's on the list to be resurfaced, and we're gonna try to look at some drainage down there and see what we could do. Because there was a time, you're correct, that it was about 3 months that road was impassable down there because of that.
Okay.
So, but we're looking at that as well. And she spoke to about the, and you're going to hear in a moment, you're going to hear them speak from the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce, because they also are in support of us, and what we need there is infrastructure goes to support the economic development. So you'll hear them speak on that in a minute. But as you alluded to the resort that they're looking to put down there, the amount of load that that's going to put onto our sewer plant, that's definitely one of the big key reasons why we need to have that down
Absolutely.
there. So thank you both. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mayor.
it. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Dr. Gwinnett, Executive Director of Northeast Florida Educational Consortium. Welcome.
Senator Perry and Representative Payne, thank you for giving the opportunity today to speak to you. On behalf of our districts, we want to thank you for your continued support for the regional consortia funding. It means a lot to our districts. We're proud to say that we stand by them the last year as they led the way in opening our school districts face-to-face instruction. They strongly support the commissioner's initiatives, the governor's initiatives, as do we. Met yesterday with the Department of Education and the team with Chancellor Oliva, and talked about our partnership, NEFEC and the Tri-Consortia, and what we can do to support our rural districts. Again, we're leading the way with moving into the new standards and the elimination of Common Core. Our districts are receiving training from NEFEC. We're out in our districts supporting them with literacy, with math. We're going through the new textbook adoption, and by the end of next year, there'll be the complete elimination of the Common Core and moving into these new standards. And our districts perform extremely well, as you know. We're ranked in the top 10 in several categories in school grades. We do more with less, but the consortium means a lot to our districts because we can consolidate services. We go out for bids together. We get grants from the USDOE, and it's really been a model of a way of work to bring districts together and partners together. And again, I can't say enough about your support for us. Some of the large districts don't understand. Legislators don't understand what we do, but you do. And when the time comes, you're always there for us. So we want to thank you for that. I do have a handout, and I want to thank you again for supporting NEFEC and our rural districts.
Thank you, Dr. Gwinnett. Questions, Senator? No. Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. And from the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce, Chairman Wayne McLean and Derek Hembry, Vice Chair. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Representative Payne. Senator Perry, thank you.
Last year when I spoke to you, we had one ask from the Chamber of Commerce, and that was broadband. And you guys, along with the national level, certainly delivered the funding for that, and we certainly appreciate that. But I come back again this year to talk about broadband, and specifically concerns about the implementation now that we have the money. And Representative Payne, you and I have talked about the Office of Broadband in Putnam and for the state under the DEO. And I would just ask you gentlemen to make sure, from an oversight point of view, that we stay on top of the monies for broadband and that the monies are used for implementation across our county, specifically for the users, and it just doesn't stop with the providers. So that still is number one on our agenda in terms of the importance of economic development and quality of life, quite frankly, in Putnam County. So that's our number one ask. The second thing that I want to mention before I turn it over to my colleague here is you heard Mayor Watts talk about the wastewater treatment down in Palatka, and obviously all of the infrastructure needs in Putnam County are important to the Chamber of Commerce, but specifically this year we're talking about Palatka and the growth that is happening there, and so we'd ask you to pay special attention to that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Derek Embry to go over a couple of items.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne. Representative Payne, Senator Perry. Putnam County needs expanded vocational and technical education programs so that our students are job ready after graduation. The roughly 80% of our students that do not go on to college need a career. We support the Putnam County School District's request for an appropriation to begin the Putnam County Academy of Building Construction Technologies. We appeal to you to obtain additional funding for workforce development programs for both the school district and St. Johns River State College. We cannot stress to you enough the importance of having applicants, graduates, students who are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for entry-level employment. We also ask that you remember Rodman Reservoir and the importance that it plays for Palatka and Putnam County. It's very famous for its abundance of wildlife, and it's nationally recognized as one of the top bass fisheries in the country. U.S. Fish and Wildlife estimates an economic impact of over $12 million annually for Putnam County from the hunting, fishing, and wildlife viewing that take place at the reservoir. The Putnam County Chamber continues its support for the reservoir and stands in opposition to all efforts to restore the Ocklawaha River. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate your comments, Wayne, certainly on the broadband issue. We know there's going to be some food fights on broadband issue, and so that slows down the implementation when you have systems like Starlink, when we have private providers, but providers that work with government that are putting fiber and copper in the ground. It makes it difficult, so implementation is critical. We appreciate you bringing that up, so thank you.
Thank you. And maybe next year, Representative Payne, I won't have Colonel Wells to have to sit beside me to behave.
Well, I was thinking about you earlier when we were talking about broadband. I knew that was going to be the subject, so I appreciate you bringing it up. And Colonel, I'm glad you're standing by with your handcuffs. Okay, for municipalities, representatives from town of Interlaken. Is there anyone from Interlaken? I think Commissioner Harvey represents them very well. From the town of Pomona Park. No one from Pomona Park. Okay, public presentations and testimony of 3 minutes. And again, if you have not filled out an appearance card, please do so. And so I'll start with Nancy Russo, Vice President in Putnam County Services of the Small, or SMA, and Stuart Marchman, as well as Ivan Kissimmee with him. So.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to speak today. And I also wanted to thank both of you for allowing your staff to come to the forum in July. That was a huge commitment of their time, and we really do appreciate that.
Thank you for the forum.
SMA is requesting funding for the implementation of a central receiving system for both Putnam and Marion counties. During the 2020 calendar year, SMA and Marion County had 2,369 admissions to their crisis stabilization unit and 1,220 individuals admitted to their detox unit. Through the new contract from Lutheran Services of Florida, 4 detox beds were left unfunded. Prior to the decrease, we were in the process of applying for an addictions receiving facility to better serve the county, because currently everyone placed under a Marchman Act has to be transported out of county either by the Sheriff's Department or a transportation company. This receiving facility designation would alleviate the need for transportation and allow the deputies to continue to cover the road. In Putnam County during the 2020 calendar year, there were 141 Baker Acts transported by our current crisis triage and treatment unit to either Volusia, Alachua, or Flagler County. Other Baker Acts are taken to the emergency department, and we at SMA don't track those, so I don't have the numbers for that. We also transported 31 Marchman Acts to Volusia County due to this being the closest receiving facility. Over the past 3 years, past 3 fiscal years, 2,760 Putnam County residents sought crisis services outside of the county, but only 57% were actually admitted to a crisis stabilization stay. Funding a central receiving system would allow for the additional beds to be reestablished in Marion County and allow for a more robust addiction receiving facility there. It would also allow for the crisis triage and treatment unit in Putnam to operate 24 hours a day, to assist in reducing the amount of residents who are seeking services outside of the county, because we can screen them and assess them here in the county and then make the appropriate referrals to the services that are their best treatment option. It would also allow for a care coordinator to be placed in each emergency department to help facilitate coordination of services with appropriate community providers, with the goal of reducing the rate of recidivism in our more expensive services like the emergency department, crisis stabilization units, or jail. So we are requesting $1.5 million to implement these vital services that will allow for the coordination of care and quality of services to the residents of Putnam and Marion counties.
So you might have missed something there. The centers, which is in Marion County, actually went out of business in this last fiscal year, and SMA took over all those services, including all their facilities, the CSU, the Children's CSU, all those facilities. And we really want to leverage this very underutilized service in Marion County. I don't think they got out to the public very often. And we really want to leverage those facilities, those staff, those assets with what we're doing in Putnam County. And I think there's a really good synergy there. So that was a missing piece of the things that Nancy discussed. So that happened in July of this year. We actually merged with those guys. I have to just mention the FACT team. I've been here, I think this is year 5, asking for the funding to be to keep on going, and I prepared a document that you have in your files. It kind of shows the return on investment of that program. It has been a non-recurring item, but I want to remind you that there are 33 other FACT teams in the state that are already part of the base budget. This is the one outlier actually in the entire state. What DCF is doing is moving funds out of DCF and into ACA to help to assist in the funding of the FACT teams. And so as you guys look at that, what is I think a $1.25 million project becomes something less when they go ahead and move it over to ACA. So I'll be coming to you guys again this year asking to see if we can get that thing kind of plugged in once and for all. So that's really my comments for today. I want to thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you for that. Questions? Yeah. Thank you. Next is Jane West from Policy and Planning Director for 1,000 Friends of Florida. You're recognized.
Thank you. Representative Payne, Senator Perry, I appreciate it. Jane West, the Policy and Planning Director for 1,000 Friends of Florida, and also a resident of the Downtown Historic District in Palatka. So, there are attempts to soil Putnam County with biosolids. I briefly want to touch on this. Biosolids is basically a sanitized word for sewage sludge. An EPA sludge survey includes 92 pharmaceuticals, steroids, and hormones that are not regulated whatsoever, not to mention the nutrient-rich byproducts that will harm the water quality in the St. Johns River Basin. Just this morning, I noticed a light blue-green algae outbreak at Riverfront Park. We strongly urge you to protect Putnam from the excrement of South Florida for the sake of our health and environment. Secondly, and this is rather predictably for both of you, we strongly urge you to direct the appropriate state agencies, DEP and the St. Johns River Water Management District, to initiate the process of restoration of the Ocklawaha River by breaching the Rodman Dam. to restore the natural river flow while retaining the popular park and recreational facilities. This is a critical time to provide habitat for manatees that are experiencing the highest mortality rate that we have ever seen on record. Restore the 15,000 acres of cypress forest, add 150 million gallons a day for water flow, and save millions in repairing a half-century-old dam, all while providing an economic boost to our local economy through fishing, kayaking, and other recreational opportunities. And finally, we request, again, that you fully fund Florida Forever at its historic funding floor levels of $300 million per year, in keeping with the overwhelming support of your constituents when they voted for Amendment 1 years ago. Amendment 1 earmarked 33% of dock stamp revenue to acquire and restore Florida's conservation and recreational lands. We have an economy based on the environment that generates about $100 billion a year for the state annually, and land conservation is an extremely effective method for protecting our environmental assets. I hope you will take into consideration these 3 top priorities for this part of Northeast Florida, and I hope through your aids that you received our electronic version of our legislative priorities for this upcoming legislative session. I look forward to working with both of you throughout the session. Hopefully the doors will be open this time and I can work with you and your aides face to face. Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Yes, Senator Perry.
On the Florida Forever and some of the other funding, so the purchasing of lands, does your organization or any organization have a comprehensive plan? You had all the money you needed. Where does the state of Florida end up? I mean, from a purchasing, from ownership of this land for protection. Do we have that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Senator Perry. There was a backlog in terms of land acquisition and expending those funds. They simply were not getting out the door and making those critical purchases for quite a period of time, and there was a complete backlog. But now the spending has started and that acquisition has started in full force. I can get a lot more detailed reports for you that are a lot more up to date, but the spending has started. We are highly aware that we're not going to get funded if we still have a whole bunch of money in the bank.
Sure, I guess that's not the question, though.
Okay.
I guess as a state, do you have a plan that says, at some point in time, we've acquired the land that we want to acquire? Not that we just continually, for the next 10 years, 5 years, or 1,000 years, we just are buying land because money becomes available. But is there some kind of comprehensive master plan that says, here's our goal that we want to achieve?
Yes, there is. There are swaths of land throughout the state of Florida that have been identified as critical for habitat restoration, environmentally sensitive lands. So those are all mapped out through the entire state of Florida. They are tiered on a system of more high priority down to low priority. Senator Perry, we're certainly not advocating for a position of buying up every last piece of vacant land in the state of Florida. Okay. There is a prioritization in terms of its environmental.
If you can get that would
absolutely.
Be great.
I'd
be awesome.
Happy to do so.
Our staff. Thank you.
And along with that, are you familiar with the bill we passed on wildlife corridors?
Yes, I am, and thank you very much. I understand that was primarily through the federal funding boost of last legislative session. We are thrilled to get that extra funding, and it will be critical in the acquisition of wildlife corridor spending.
So I worked on wildlife corridors quite a bit before the federal funding came in.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see how your maps match up with what we see as future wildlife corridors as we go forward, because that was funded at $400 million.
Yes, it was, and we really thank you for that. We'd like to keep that historic funding floor level at the state level at $300 million. I don't know if I have information on how that directly correlates with the wildlife corridor, but I'll see what I can do for you, Representative Payne.
Certainly the environment's strong on our mind as we go forward, as long as we are doing it appropriately and not taking up space where land and water are not inextricably linked. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Amy Wilson from Clay Behavioral. Welcome. You're recognized.
Hello, Senator Perry and Representative Payne. I want to thank you guys for letting us speak. I work for Clay Behavioral Health in Clay County, but we have the pleasure of serving Putnam County with 2 of our teams, our Community Action Treatment Team and our Helm team, helping Every Life Matter. Both serve Putnam County. Helm is for our first episode, psychosis. And we've recently had the pleasure of gaining extra funding to increase our numbers of staff so we can increase the number of clients we could serve here in Putnam County as well in Clay. We're hoping that when it comes time around to support CAT teams again this year, you guys will support what we do as the Community Action Treatment Team in this county. We are hoping to maybe get some additional funding to have staff just here in Putnam County. Our kids need it here in Putnam County. They need it so bad. We work with Nancy and we support her so much in the crisis unit and with the sheriffs, with the Baker Acts. I mean, it's happening, and any support you guys can give us, we greatly appreciate. Mental health is definitely at the forefront, especially right now. Our youth are in crisis, and we are doing the best we can to help, and your support is so greatly appreciated.
Good. Thank you for being here. Next on the list is from the St. John's River Keeper, Lisa Reinemann. Hey, Lisa, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Representative Bobby Payne. It's nice to see you again. And Senator Perry, it's nice to meet you, and I'm very honored to have the pleasure to speak in front of both of you today. My name is Lisa Reinemann. I'm the St. John's River Keeper. We represent citizens from all the 18 counties that flow into the St. John's. And I don't have to tell you both that the St. John's River and clean water really drives Florida's economy, and thank you for your support on clean water issues in the past. In Putnam County, the St. John's River put Putnam County on the map more than 50 years ago as the best bass fishing capital of the world. And so good water quality continues to support that. And so we want to make sure we're working with you to do everything we can to protecting our waters and make sure it's a priority. Not only does it support wonderful fishing and outings and opportunities, it also supports a growing, thriving economy, as we're seeing in Palatka and other areas in Putnam County. But we're asking for policies that are used to be implemented or implemented by strong, enforceable science. We know how difficult it is with lawyers coming to you from both sides. We want to make sure that we're providing good data, good science, so you can make great decisions, and appreciate your help that you've had this past session on biosolids. But we do need to do more. Just yesterday, I went out and sampled 5 public docks here in Putnam County. All 5 of them have blue-green algae. We tested it. It's actually microcystis, which produces toxins. Those samples are right now at the local lab at Greenwater. We're waiting on the toxicity readings, and we'll provide them to your office. We have to stop pollution at its source. It's much cheaper to do and it's less risk to human health, as well as there's not damage done to our businesses that depend on clean water. Unfortunately, right now there is a sewage sludge permit that's threatening not only Lake Como, but Crescent City Lake and Lake Como area. It's on top of their drinking water source. We need to make sure that we're not allowing one county to move their pollution to another county. Again, we appreciate the incremental improvements, Representative Payne, on biosolids, but as we discussed, we need to do more. We look forward to working with you to not only protect against this permit in Putnam County, but for all Florida waters. We support the request for septic to sewer. Once we get septic tanks off, that's helping us, but if we put money into septic to sewer, and then we put biosolids and sewage sludge on our land, we're undermining that investment. So we want to look at a holistic picture, not only for today, but for the future. We also support Putnam County's request for drainage improvements. If you have good stormwater drainage, not only does it make your communities and your river more resilient, it also reduces pollution, and so it's less to try to get the pollution out at another time. We request that you protect all Florida waters equally. Unfortunately, some parts of our state, mainly South Florida, has enhanced protections that we don't have here in Putnam or North Florida. So we ask, and we'll have some language to bring in front of you that can protect all Florida waters equally from things like sewage sludge that is driving the blue-green algae that we're currently seeing out in our waterways today. And the last request we would have for your consideration, and look forward to talking with you both more in detail, is your support for the Great Florida Riverway. Reuniting Silver Springs, the Ocklawaha River, and the St. John's as the Great Florida Riverway will not only improve water quality restore more than 20 springs, increase fishing and recreational opportunities. It'll also improve the resiliency of the St. Johns River and all the counties that live along the estuary, including Palatka, St. Johns, Clay, and Duval counties. It's one of the most significant projects available to restore all of these waterways and the economies that depend on them. By restoring the natural timing and increasing the freshwater flow into the St. Johns River estuary that begins in Palatka, not only will the lost submerged aquatic vegetation recover and habitat for fish improve, you'll also improve freshwater flow that will reduce the impacts of sea level rise, saltwater intrusion, and benefit all of our recreational and commercially fish and shellfish resources. In 2021, the Florida legislature prioritized water resource improvement, flooding and resiliency, the Florida Wildlife Corridor. I've seen the new signs go up. We're so excited about that investment. Springs restoration and manatee habitat. The Great Florida Riverway supports all of those priorities as well as a thriving economy in Northeast Florida. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment of personal privilege to talk just about a couple of things we've heard from the last couple of people. One, biosolids was an issue, and Ms. Reynolds, you can certainly attest to this, was an issue that we've seen over years, that we're moving sludge from South Florida to North Florida. Part of the comprehensive water bill around 2 years ago was to evaluate biosolids. At the time, there had been a biosolids task force and a blue-green algae task force. I didn't include that in the bill simply because we had to have rules ratification, and we need to be stringent on rules ratification as far as biosolids application for land application. Unfortunately, there's very little you can do with biosolids. As you know, you can incinerate, you can put it in landfill, you can use it in applications. Mrs. West spoke earlier about biosolids being permit being applied for in South Putnam. And she made some mentions of some pathogens that were in there. Those are in Class B and Class A biosolids. They're not in Class AA, as you know. One of the issues that, as Commissioner Pickens and I met with Crescent City constituents a few weeks ago, and there is an application permittee in the Crescent City area. Not sure, but I believe he'd probably be applying Class B biosolids. That application process has been sent to DEP. DEP has requested additional information. Additional information I think is substantially complete, and they will be issuing a draft permit. What a draft permit means is that once that permit is in draft form, it's reviewed by all members of DEP, legal and scientific, and then there'll be public meetings held. We expect those to occur sometime October the 20th. So the LLC will have to put in a notification through the newspaper and through social media and other methodologies to make sure people can attend the public meeting and voice their concerns. That is the process that's going on now. The Zoning Board of Adjustment locally and the county commissioners will be evaluating that as well and determine if it's something that the Putnam County will want to continue to evaluate and maybe take some action on. So the comments on biosolids are very important. The fact of the matter is we're offended to some degree by North Florida by South Florida sending their biosolids waste to us. Until there's a new technology, it's very difficult to manage. There are some application places that are appropriate. In fact, if you're a farmer or an agriculture person, you've got 5, 6, 7,000 acres, maybe there's a right application because it is an application nutrient supplement in those areas. With regard to the Rodman Reservoir, the DEP has asked locally the water management districts to hold some public meetings. They will advertise those meetings and ask some questions to get input for their registry. Simply because the reservoir is now, I believe it's 52 years old. It's built for a 50-year lifespan. We're very concerned in the state about infrastructure issues, as you've seen from Surfside. But it is just an evaluation process. It's the means to have a dialogue and get public input as to what is the right thing to do for Rodman Reservoir. So I would encourage those of you that want to be engaged in that, and I see Mr. Lovejoy's in the back, and I'm looking for a nod if I'm getting off cue. but to make sure we have the opportunity to get those that are vocal and concerned about Rodman, either for or against, and have an opportunity to express their opinions so that that's put into the register in the database. Finally, let me say this. We have had a great partnership with Dr. Ann Shortell, who has recently retired. She has always been there to answer questions and give us input that are very pragmatic and very reasonable. And she's resigned. She'll be missed. So Dr. Shortell, if you get a chance to watch this, we wish you a great retirement and thank you for your service to our state. Did you have another comment? Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for those comments, and most definitely appreciate the opportunity for the continuing conversation on all fronts, and agree with you on Dr. Shortell comments as well. I would like to say regarding the biosolids piece, you nailed it on the head regarding new technologies, and as we know, there's unprecedented dollars available right now for infrastructure and things coming from the federal government, and wouldn't it be incredible if Florida could be the leader in how to manage human waste? Right now, we're just moving it around, and so we could invest in new technologies, which they do exist. Be happy to give you a list of some that have been vetted by DEP as well as others. It would be great, and it would really speak volumes to future generations if we can manage our growing volume of waste due with our growing population, and look forward to the ongoing conversation on all the things. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Look forward to the list. Thank you. Next, Angie Wagner from Constituents for Family Reunification.
I hope everybody's having a great day. Actually, it's Angie Hatfield. I'm not sure how that happened, but if you want to support family reunification, you can call me anything you want.
Angie Hatfield. Okay.
Hatfield, like the hillbillies. Yes.
Hatfields and McCoys. Okay.
Yes, exactly, precisely. I'll get right to it. Here in a few weeks, my daughter is going to rejoin me after almost a decade apart. Who are we now? We're not sure. We're very nervous, both of us. I only have one nail left, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to make it in these next couple weeks. All of our communications, our phone calls, every time I've seen her, we've been under the watchful eye of the DOC. Who we are without that watchful eye is not the same as who we are under that eye. I really would have liked to have some kind of a trial run or something like that, because we're going to go from 0 to 80 miles an hour overnight, and we're both very stressed about that. I can't do anything about that, unfortunately. We have to dance that dance, but I did think about other families. And Objective 4F in the FDC Long Range Program Plan emphasizes family relationships in support of the governor's public safety policy, which made me think, well, public safety, I hear this term all the time. I hear it in the media, I hear it from elected officials, I hear it all over the place. What is it? So I did some research. I found some very interesting information, and then there's no real true definition of the term public safety. So I actually put something together, and there's nothing like the 0 hour to finish my editing. So within an hour, you'll have 2 emails, one titled Public Safety, the other one entitled Family Matters, about the family reunification. I am not asking for money today. I didn't even think I was asking for legislative assistance, but maybe possibly. So let me just say that please, if families matter to you, if public safety matters to you, do not click that trash icon when you get those in your inboxes. Let me finish by saying that families are our best weapon in the arsenal against future crimes, future victims, broken communities, and broken lives. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Next, Tim Hotellin from St. Johns River and Buzzard Island. Tim, you're recognized.
Good day again.
Good day.
When I first started getting in front of you all, I talked about saving Buzzard Island. It's an island in St. Johns River in San Mateo, one of many that the state owns and the state ignores. It was here historically, and then it's getting washed away a little by little. There's a thing called Shoreline Stabilization. Fish and Wildlife Service have a whole division called Habitat and Species Restoration. they can't lift a finger until the Public Lands Administrator within the DEP says, go forth and do it by leasing it to somebody. All I've asked is that y'all ask Mr. DEP, why, what? Mr. DEP, how many islands like this do you have that are just covered with all of the white birds that the tourists come to see in Florida? And they're the same white birds that eat thousands and thousands of bugs every day, following behind the farmers' tractors and animals. I happen to live across the river from it, so I see it every day, so it pulls on my heart, and I'm sorry about that. Secondly, this project has increased, I'm afraid, because Representative Payne had just a really wonderful meeting year and a half ago, on the river, the condition of the river. And at that time, we were down at the riverfront building, and they had a big display, our underwater garden. And since that time, I've been asking y'all what happened to our underwater garden. As you know, that all of what the scientists call submerged aquatic vegetation has died. It's gone. They've managed it. They've scientifically done studies, and it marched downstream from the mouth at Jacksonville. It's now halfway out into, or even further into Crescent Lake and Lake George. The bass people that come here write about it in their news, saying, oh my gosh, they have to go further. Sooner or later, it's going to adversely impact the ability to collect all of those millions of tourist tax dollars. The stated policy of the Water Management Division is, we'll monitor it. Years ago, they did more than monitor it. This was a little sign they had when they had college students come and planting the Vallisneria americana eelgrass. I would really, really appreciate it if you guys would take the muscle and ask the questions. Perhaps even have another one of your shows here where they'll be embarrassed, and, you know, they being generically those that have a responsibility to earn the pay that we give them, to know something about science as to why the river is deteriorating, and it is. It's getting bad. I mean, I'm just a nobody, so I'll watch it for you.
Well, thank you for your comments. Certainly, we are concerned about the environment. We see, as Mrs. Reinemann said, we see funding each year, and there are a lot of studies that are going on that you may not be aware of by the Water Management District and by DEP. The grass situation is not something we'll turn around overnight. We talk about it quite a bit with FWC and others, but I think we're at least on the cusp of making some positive decisions in the legislature and with the FDEP to guard against further deterioration. So.
Well, it'd be real helpful if you all would broadcast some of that, you know, raise the public awareness, especially if you're having to do, you know, the septics and all of that kind of stuff. You've been talking about it for years, but I don't know how many of you, even your other speakers, are aware about how terrible you know, it was all grass and now it's just detritus, just yuck. And with that, the river gets darker, and when the river's darker, the sun can't come in. When the sun can't come in, the plants can't grow, and it's a deteriorating, ever-increasing cycle. And you have to start somewhere to get to the end. And I would really like to know that somebody's actually studying and somebody's actually got a vision. And I mean, I talk to scientific types, and so I'm not totally blind or deaf, but it'd help. And I'd really like to know why DEP or the Public Lands Administration can't The Corps of Engineers came down there. They were already here. They had all the money in their small projects. They were all set to fix that island so that the birds would have a place to live.
And the birds flew to another island. Thank you, Mr. Hotel.
Thank you.
June Thompson, a constituent for Ocklawaha River. You're recognized.
Hi, I'm June Thompson. Excuse me. This is going to be a little bit different from the other people's presentations, but I do want to have the river restored, but I'll give you a little bit of history. I grew up here in North Florida, in Palatka actually, and we enjoyed the rivers and the springs. We swam a lot in Salt Springs and Silver Glen and Silver Springs. And also, when I grew up, I was the executive director of the Arts Council of Palatka. And as executive director of the Arts Council, I was able to go to some programs on how to build healthy cities. And at this one seminar, they were saying to have a healthy city, you have to have arts, cultures, and natural resources. And we have all of that already, but in order to, I guess, celebrate it, we need a museum here to show the history of our county so that people can learn to love it and let them know what all has gone on here. We have a very, very interesting history. But we also need to restore the Ocklawaha River to make our rivers and streams healthy. And that ties in so much to our history. The Ocklawaha River is the largest tributary to the St. Johns River, and it offers recreation, food, and tourism. And some of the famous tourists that used to come here to visit, William Bartram, I'm sure all of y'all have heard of him, and Teddy Roosevelt and his wife, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Sidney Lanier, and there were so many tourists coming here, and they came all the way from like New York City. We had 5 or 6 hotels here, and some of them had rooms up to 600 people. We were a tourist destination at that time. But then the dam was put in, and all the rivers and springs have been degraded because that dam is there. 20 springs are covered by the water, the weight of the water on top of them. They cannot flow like they should, and those are places where people like to go and swim and enjoy in their own. So that's 20 places that people cannot really use like they should be and like they used to be. It also restricts the fish from migrating and the manatee, and restricts us from going from Palatka all the way to Silver Springs. I gave y'all a copy of a letter you a copy of the letter. It was in your packet that my dad and I had written to, I think it was the Forestry Service, that gave a lot of history of what the river was like, the Ocklawaha River was like before the dam. And he was a great fisherman. He was kind of a legend in his own time. But he describes the fishery, or how many fish were in the river before the dam, and how few fish were in the river after the dam was put in. So if you haven't read that, I would appreciate you reading it. I think you would enjoy it. But anyway, he says that the river kind of worked as and all the little streams feeding into it were like a fish nursery. That's where the little fish would go into these streams, and they would grow, and they'd be able to come and be in the bigger river. Anyway, those rivers and streams, those little streams are flooded also. Anyway,
Mrs. Thompson, your time is up, but I'll let you continue another minute or so if you don't mind. 3 minutes was our speaking time, so you've exceeded
okay,
your time.
I'm over my time, is that what
Yeah,
you're
just if you'll wind it up, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, well, anyway, I just was saying that we could have the tourist destination again, and we'd like you to remove the dam and restore the Ocklawaha River, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, there are some folks that aren't on our list that didn't get on the list that have turned in appearance cards, so we'll start with Kerry Bates. Kerry is ARC of Putnam County Director. Thank you.
Thank you both, Senator Perry, Representative Payne, for your support over the last few years. I'm Carrie, Executive Director of the ARC of Putnam. I'm also the President of the ARC Conference of Executives, and we, as you know, represent individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I've talked to y'all over the last few years about a crisis we're facing that's threatening much of the progress we've made in how we support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And this won't be a surprise. We cannot recruit and retain our hands-on staff. These staff interact with clients daily. They assist with toileting, bathing, eating, shopping, cooking, taking medications, transferring people from wheelchairs to beds, chairs, or bathtubs. They're required to pass federal background checks and complete a robust training program. The job is stressful and demanding, and the stakes are high. The staff provide essential care that is instrumental to the survival of our clients. Over time, a slow and steady erosion of our workforce has occurred, and when COVID hit, the shortage became a crisis. And then on July 1st, when the state of Florida raised its entry-level positions to $13 per hour, it really kind of finished us off. Sadly, we cannot compete with entry-level state positions, fast food, and retail places. Right now, our starting pay is at $10.50. And just interestingly, I want to pause there because these were remarks we prepared a few weeks ago. And in the last 3 weeks, so just for example, in Putnam County, it takes us about 80 staff to operate our group homes. And we are down 40% vacancies, so we have about 30 vacancies. And we have done fairly well during COVID. We haven't had a ton of cases, but in the last 3 weeks, we've had 32 people test positive between staff and clients. We right now have 12 staff out. We have closed 2 group homes and consolidated our positive cases. And we are looking at likely closing a group home permanently, not because people don't need the care, but we simply do not have the staff. At $10.50 an hour, people are not going to work, especially with a positive COVID client. Statewide, most ARCs average around a 40% vacancy. The impact is real, and it is heartbreaking. Clients are being dislocated, relationships with their caregivers are coming to an end, and in some extreme cases, it's leading to institutional placements. So on behalf of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the ARC of Florida will be requesting an increase through the Agency for Persons with Disabilities in order to reach minimum wage of $14 per hour for our direct support professionals. The total cost to the state will be $93 million with a federal match of $147 million, but it's a substantial investment we don't think can wait. For the immediate future, we are hoping for some temporary federal funding in the coming months. And I would just urge you to support the ARC of Florida's request so that Putnam's most vulnerable individuals can remain in their home community.
Okay, thank you. We know it's a challenge, and you and I've had numerous conversations.
Yes, and thank you.
We know the increase in minimum wage is going to continue to compound that. The 40% of vacancies, is that prior COVID or is that during COVID?
Yes, that would have been in June. We were about 40%.
Right in the middle of COVID.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you all for your support. I do appreciate it.
Okay, next on the list of appearance cards is Gail Epperson. Is that Gail or Kay? Kay, okay, I'm sorry. Gail Epperson. I'm sorry, Ms. Epperson. I do need glasses, but it does look like Gail to me, so new glasses.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I feel totally
I recognize you now without the mask, okay.
I'm sorry?
I said I recognize you now without the mask.
Oh, you do? Yeah. So I'm here to talk about the Rodman Dam. I wrote this up this morning. I hope it makes sense. We humans keep trying to change nature to suit us. We straightened out the Kissimmee River that polluted the Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee. Now we're trying to put the curves back. It's costing a lot of money to do that. The curves allow the river to cleanse the water before it reaches the lake. Then we dammed up Lake Okeechobee so it wouldn't flood out the sugar fields that were put there by us humans after removing the swamp apple bushes that used to clean the water. Now, when the water does flow out of the lake, it has so many nutrients, other plants are taking over the sawgrass, and the entire system of the Everglades is changing, and not for the better. Now we humans are attempting to figure out how to let the water out of the lake, letting it flow through the Everglades, but first we are attempting to cleanse the water with large man-made pools, a very expensive proposition. Speaking of the Everglades, we drained all the water, and now we're spending billions trying to put it all back. Rodman Dam was put up to create a barge canal across Florida. That project was stopped in the early 70s, but the dam was finished and the land was flooded. Now fish and mammals that used to migrate up and down the Ocklawaha can no longer do that. In addition, it costs us to maintain that man-made system. This is an easy fix. It's not particularly expensive. Take the dam down, and there is no longer a cost to maintain it, and the river will find its way back to its original path. Fish will flourish, the forest will regrow, and the cost of maintenance will go away. Take the dam down. Let nature run its course. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Chadwick is next. Karen here, there she is. Ocklawaha River is the topic.
Got a couple of pictures. Do I get them to?
Yeah, just hand it to staff if you would, thank you.
Thank you for being here today. I just wanted to give you, I've talked about this before when you've been out here, a firsthand experience, like an update about the Ocklawaha River and Rodman. These are some pictures that I took recently. The area is sprayed with herbicides over and over and over to keep it navigable. It's not established where it doesn't need repeated herbicide applications over and over and over. Here's a map right here. You can see this is the flooded area. The plants just grow out here, mostly water lettuce and some water hyacinth. Depending on the wind, it fills up Kenwood Ramp or Orange Springs or the canal. They just sprayed the whole length of the canal a couple times this year. This is, if you see the picture that has, this is a small area that was sprayed. This is called the Pig Trail. If you go out of Kenwood Ramp and you go to the right, that's the Pig Trail there, that's what the locals call it. That's where they stopped dredging, so it's shallower there. And it's narrow. There's some plants that grow on either side. And just in a day, that area can fill up. This was August 21st. They had sprayed about, probably about 4 days before I took this picture. And then this one, I wrote on the back so you can tell what it is. This was Sunday, August 29th. This little spot right here, that's that little group of cattails. The pig trail was filled up, and more plants were blowing in. Here's one of the logs. If you try to chew through that with your boat, airboats, of course, can go right over it. But if you try to chew through that, there's logs in there, and I've damaged my boat, my prop, trying to run through that stuff. So I don't do that. Then this other one, this, let's see, August 21st, I went down south of Orange Creek, and by markers 81 and 82, the river was blocked. Looked like it had been blocked for a little while. And then Sunday, this is from the 29th, it was still blocked. And more plants were blowing in there. This is ongoing. It's really not a reliable recreational resource. Both of those days there at Kenwood, it was the afternoon. There was one truck that was there with the trailer. And at Orange Springs on the 21st, nobody was out in a boat.
On the 29th, there were 2 kayakers out from Orange Springs. If you go out there during the drawdown, the place is slammed with people. I hope the chamber will look at the Greenway data that shows the vegetation numbers during the drawdowns and when the water's up. It's radically different. There's so many more people that go out there. It's not like we have to invent the wheel or reinvent the wheel. This is a map that was put together by DEP and the Office of Greenways. This is from 1997. Shows with the restored river how many more access points there would be for shoreline fishing and boat launches. I mean, there'd just be so many more opportunities. During the drawdown, I run tours, North Star Charters. The guides, or mostly all guys, fishing guides, they'll be lined up. The tour operators, there's only a couple of us, we're lined up. The kayak guides, they're lined up with their kayaks. Everybody's going out. You don't lose fishing. People are still fishing. The river was great. You should look at her parents' book. Back when Lester, like she says, he was pretty famous for all the fish he caught. They've got tons of pictures of big bass before the, before the dam was put in. It's got a great history. I think Putnam County is really being held back. In my own personal experience, we're using so many herbicides, 20 acres here, 20 acres there. It just goes on and on. Costs a lot of money. With the restored river, you're not going to have that open area where the plants can just grow unimpeded and blow around and block things up. So, like I said, I hope the chamber looks at those numbers. We've got, there's some good things about it for some people. People will still be able to fish. There'll be more opportunities. So please do what you can to get the river restored. I think it would really benefit Putnam County economically. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Grace. Keep Putnam beautiful. We don't have to make a motion to extend, but we should, we're close though, we've got 2 more people. Recognized.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Nicole Grace. I'm with Keep Putnam Beautiful. And we're with one of 44 affiliates with Keep Florida Beautiful that are usually funded through an $800,000 budget item from transportation and, economic development in the budget. For a lot of the affiliates throughout Florida, they're very large populations, and it's not exactly critical. They found ways to really fundraise alternatively and have it covered. But for counties like Putnam County, individual donors, we really need to reach out to. Thank you, Representative Payne. Anyway, but it means a lot to us. It is fully 1/3 of my budget for the year, which we do not have for this coming year, but we are asking for in 22. If it comes up, to please look at it and consider us. We make it through. We had COVID benefits that allowed us to get more pickers, so we're ready for our season. As we come up, it's the heat starting to, please, cool down a little bit because our volunteers, which across all of Florida, you'll see the beach cleanups, but we have our waterways cleanups coming up from September through December this year for International Coastal Cleanup, which is really large in our area because of the St. Johns River. We had our Northeast Florida Association of Realtors that already had a waterway cleanup in the hottest month of the year. Good job, Leota. It was hot, but it was a lot of fun, and we got to see what was out there on the water. One of the girls that we have in our educational component kept shouting that, "I'm saving the sea turtles, I'm saving the sea turtles," and the boy next to her, "No, you're not. There's otters in the river, there's no sea turtles." But realistically, we are that source. All of our water goes down the river and ends up in the ocean, and it impacts the sea turtles as well. So I ask you to please help our community consider that budget bill when it comes up, and I do not have it because it hasn't started yet for the legislation session for 22. But when it does, I'm sure they will send it to me and I will bring it up to y'all. And I want to say thank you very much, both of you. I've met you as 4-H up at the Capitol, and it's always exciting for my family to be there for that. And Representative Payne also as our celebrity timer at the pool, which is right behind us. And in about 5 minutes, our high school swimmers will be swimming. So
Thank you.
thank you again. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Appreciate it. Keeping with protocol, Senator, we probably should extend. We started at 2:05, so if you want to extend 10 minutes, if that's okay with you. We've got 2 more speakers, and then we'll conclude. Thank you. Michael Stallings is our next appearance card. And I'll remind each of you to try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay.
Michael Stallings is my name. I live now in the big city of Palatka. Grew up here, born and raised, Putnam County. Went off to service, come back, and from that point on, I did a lot of research in rivers. That's what I am, as a researcher, archaeological and paleontological. And what I found over time diving these rivers and walking around looking for archaeological sites. One thing is the federal government and the state of Florida is not upholding their laws. One of the things we're supposed to be doing is protecting our archaeological sites. Rodman Reservoir, with the devastation they've already done and ruined a lot of them, but on the sides of the reservoir, the winds and the waves are blowing trees over, artifacts are being poured out, and we're not protecting them. I did a walk around all the way, literally all the way around Rodman, and because of my walk around, it forced the federal government to do an archaeological survey, which they never done, which should have done at the beginning. So this is another reason Rodman should go. All the beautiful springs, the prongs on the bottom of the river, the old river used to see them. They're like this. You familiar with what prongs are? Okay, it's oversized shrimp. So they're not there anymore. They can't migrate. They're stopped at the reservoir. So there's a lot of good reasons to get rid of it, and I can't think of one good reason to keep it. The dam is actually leaking. It's percolating under the earthen part of the dam on the west end, going under, and it's created a new creek right out through the swamp into the Ocklawaha. That's going to cost a lot of money to repair. And if it's not protected, either repaired or torn down in a controlled manner, that could devastate by breaking through. But anyway, if you go to Silver River and boat ramp, I call it the boat basin, that's the old name. On the weekends, it's loaded with kayakers and all. You go all the way down to Eureka. There's kayakers everywhere. There's none in Rodman. There's none. Dr. Steve Holland, University of Florida, and I drove around a number of times on spring, the summer, and the fall on the 3-day weekends. We did boat trailer counts. The highest number we ever got was 18 boats, trailers, around that. You get to Rodman Reservoir where everybody's going downstream, you can't find a parking place. The road going down to the ramps is lined up. You get on top of the reservoir, the boat trailers are lined up, they're having to walk. They're not in the reservoir. So it's a fallacy saying that the reservoir generates money, and it doesn't. It eats money. And anyway, I thank y'all for being here.
Appreciate it.
And y'all welcome. We go dive every Friday and Sunday We collect fossils. We got 30 species out of the
I've seen your fossils. You used to dive with my cousin John Dalzell. Thank you. Used to dive with my cousin John Dalzell years ago. Yep, good. Good to see you. Margaret Spontack.
I'm going to be real quick. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me today. And thanks, Keenan, the other day for spending some time with me. I'm the chair of the Freeville-Ocklawaha Coalition for Everyone. And you might want to think I'm going to talk about some of the things that have been said, but I'm not. I'm going to talk about economic development and recreation. Our group, which is 60 members, both conservation, user, businesses, so forth, has been looking at this. It's a new organization founded 2 years ago. We've been looking at, you can't just do this with a partial restoration, which we fully believe in the plan that's already been created. What needs to happen is we need to pair that with an economic development package for Putnam County, and we need to pair it with recreation, priority recreation. UF did some amazing designs, the students there this fall. I've asked them to do some more. I'd love to share those in detail. I think Bobby and Keith, you may have seen those.
I've seen them.
But we're looking at some other things. But my brother John, before he died, was trying to create a win-win for this issue, which with the dam coming to a head, with the safety issues, and the funding that's now available in so many areas, I think is a great opportunity for people to come together and look at what we could have together. I'm from Marion County. Marion and Putnam together could do an amazing joint plan. So I just wanted you to know the coalition feels that way. And we talk, I was just talking to one of the agencies, and we always couch it in the pro-dam and the anti-dam people. I think there's a lot of people in the middle right now. And we need to recognize that there are people that know there's some options and opportunities, and they want to look at those. So I'm dependent on you all, because really we need leadership to help make this happen. And they did, Senate Bill 10 has some of the elements down in Lake Okeechobee where they put in an economic package, put in some recreational lodge and so forth. I think we can do something really great with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our appearances. Since we're getting close to our time, our next item on the list is the election of new chair and vice chair for the Putnam County Delegation. So I will nominate Senator Perry. This will be very simple as a chair, and I'll pass the gavel to you. And you likewise will
Nominate you to be vice chair.
all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, next is closing remarks. Senator Perry.
Well, first, thank you for everybody for being here, especially you stayed to the bitter end. I just want to tell you that looking forward to next session, to working on your behalf in this community on all the issues. There's lots of varying issues and concerns. I think you've got a strong for delegation for two people. We're going to work really hard for you. If you think about Miami-Dade, I think there's 23 or 24 members of their delegation for the Miami-Dade. So you're at a little bit of a lack of from a number standpoint, but we're going to work hard. Senator Bobby's put himself into a very good position with the incoming speaker to have a lot of influence there. So, we're excited. It's going to be every year. There's trying times that come up, but we've got a lot of opportunities. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Senator. And I may have misled a few people earlier. Adam, was I on point with regard to public meetings from our public meetings or input into the to the website for the registry for Water Management District? Is that correct?
I think you're right on public outreach, but it's going to be more so pushing out the availability for folks to send comments in.
Okay.
Real basic questions that we ask all stakeholders, about the issue, universal questions. It's a 30-day period for folks to look at and send in.
Okay, so let me repeat that then. You're going to push out with opportunities for people to give input over a 30-day period, and there'll be notification given for that. Okay, good. Thank you. September. Great. Finally, yes, thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure to have a delegation meeting and to hear from our constituents, our elected officials. I know Senator Perry's hard work on the Senate side, doing great things over there, and likewise, I'm doing the best I can to keep my head above water on the House side. So thank you for being here. Know that we're supportive of most of the issues we hear today, and it's our goal to make a better quality of life for Putnam County. So thank you. You're adjourned.